Hey guys, this is Jen from JCats Creations, and today I'm going to be showing you a very cute little pumpkin wreath that I made the other day. It was really quick and easy to do, so I figured I would just do a video showing you guys how, in case you're interested in making one for yourself. Really, the main things involved in this particular wreath are a grapevine wreath frame, some ribbon of your choice, and we're going to be using a couple of zip ties. I do use my bowdabra to make the bow for this wreath, but feel free to use whatever bow maker you like or freehand it, whatever you want to do. I will be showing you how to make the bow and the bowdabra if you're interested in seeing that. But like I said, it's just very quick and easy to do, so I figured I would share. So this little quick close-up of the bow and the wreath itself. And with this bow, it measures about 18 inches from the top to the bottom, and then from side to side is 14 inches because I'm going to be using a 14-inch grapevine, grapevine wreath frame. So, to get into what we're going to need, as I said, just a 14-inch grapevine wreath frame. You can get these at most local craft stores, Walmart, plenty of places online. I think they usually run around $4 or $5 a piece, not too bad. I already went ahead, I took the liberty, like any kind of like real stick out pieces, I just went and I trimmed off with scissors. So I just kind of cleaned all that up just to make it easier for when we're going to wrap it. So you will need one of those. And the ribbon that I'm using today, it's just a solid orange for the frame itself, and then for the bow I kept this pretty kind of simple and classic, but you could absolutely do whatever you want. I just have a dark brown, a moss green, and a black and white buffalo plaid. These are all 2.5 inches and this is 1.5 inch, and these are all wired ribbons as well. You will need a good pair of scissors for not only clipping your grapevine, but for cutting the ribbon. And as I said, I will be using the bowdabra to make the bow for this. And the only other thing is a couple of zip ties, whatever size you like. These are my 4-inch and these are 11-inch, I believe. Whatever you prefer to use. You could use pipe cleaners too. It's completely up to you. And that's about it. So we can get started. Okay, so whenever you go to use a grapevine, since they're obviously not perfect, you just kind of decide what you want to be, like the top and the bottom of it. So I'm actually going to go with this being my top because it's also going to be very easy to attach the ribbon to the back too. So I'm going to flip this over, and I'm aiming for this thicker branch here. Get out my ribbon. Now I actually had to wrap another frame just to figure out how much ribbon I did use, because when I first made it I just kind of did, whatever, I didn't really care. So it does come out to about 7 yards of the orange that I used to wrap this frame. And the other one that I wrapped, I had used a 10-yard roll of ribbon, which was actually much easier to wrap it around. So if you want to use a 10-yard roll instead of a 50-yard roll, it's a little bit easier when you're doing all the wrapping. The 50 isn't impossible, but it definitely does make it a little more awkward. So I would just do that. And then I'm just going to use the big zip ties so it's easier for you guys to see. So I'm just going to, like I said, go after this really big branch because it's easy. And you can start where you're going to go under or go over. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go over, I think. Pull that tight, make sure it's not going to go anywhere. So that's on the back. So then all we're going to do get some extra here. And start wrapping. So I'm just going to bring it over, come through. Now I don't go really tight, I don't go really loose, just kind of medium, you know, normal, wrapping it through. And like I said, with a 50-yard roll, I mean, I can get it through. It's just a little more of a pain. If you wanted to cut off 7 yards, you know, if you're working with a big roll and just do that, then you're just basically shoving through a big clump of ribbon. I mean, whatever works for you, it doesn't really matter. And then I usually go, I mean, not quite half of an overlap, maybe just a little less than that. And actually, if you see part of the grapevine just poke through this ribbon, maybe that bothers you, maybe it doesn't. It's up to you. I actually think it kind of, I don't know, it just adds to the charm a little bit. But if you do have that happen, you can just go through and clip those off if you want. Also, when I do this, I normally have the frame sitting in my lap and leaning up against the desk. It's much easier, so it's definitely not that awkward. So that's all I'm going to do, is just go and wrap this around for the whole rest of it. Just do one more so you guys can see. And like I said, it's just, I'm pulling it snug, and I'm just going to do that the whole way around. I don't reattach or anything through the whole thing. I just go continuously, and as long as you wrap it tight enough, it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm going to cut away now. I'm going to finish wrapping this. I'm going to bring it all the way up to where I'm going to join it together, because then we're going to add a zip tie for the hanging loop. Because if you try and do that after you've already wrapped it, it's a little bit harder. So I'm going to get this finished up, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I am almost done wrapping the frame now. Really, I don't know, 5-10 minutes at the most it took me to do it. It's really quick and easy. You know, so I just went and I overlapped all the way around, and the back side too. You see it's both. So now that I've come to almost the end here, I'm going to flip it over again. And I'm just going to be adding, I'm just going to use another zip tie at this point to make a hanging loop for it. Like I said, if you cover it up and then try to add it later on, it's a little bit harder trying to work in between the ribbon to get to the grapevine. And like I said, if you're able to kind of make, you know, the top part of your wreath with a bigger branch like this, it's also much easier to just have a good point to attach things to. So I'm just going to be attaching a zip tie, making a loop, however big or small you want. That is completely up to you. Just go a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to trim that off. So that's your little loop to hang it with. If you wanted to use a pipe cleaner there or a piece of wire, whatever you want to do, it's totally up to you. The other zip tie, I had just cut off the end and just kind of tucked it under so it won't get in the way of anything. So now I'm going to finish my wrap. So just like that, cover it up. You might have to work around that loop you just put there, which is fine. I mean, at this point, we're going to be putting the bow up here too, so it's okay if it's not completely perfect. Then I'm just gonna move that over a little bit, get another zip tie. The big zip ties are much, much easier to work with. But you know, if you were looking to kind of cover up your zip tie a little bit more, you can use the small ones. Sometimes they're just a little bit harder to get through. Pull that tight. And then just kind of tuck that in as much as you can so it's not in the way. So there we have. We had started over here, kind of tucked that in. This is where we ended. And now we have our loop here too. So this is what it looks like, all wrapped up. And I like the fact that, you know, you're wrapping a grapevine, so it's not perfect. I like the fact that it's kind of a little lumpy bumpy. It's got a little more of a rustic kind of a look to it. And I was thinking about it because I know if you've watched my videos, like I'm usually all about perfection, and I completely know that. So I'm sure for you guys to hear me say like, oh, lumpy bumpy, it's okay. But it really is to me on this one because it's just kind of the overall look and feel to the wreath. So at this point, I'm just going to set this aside because we're going to make the bow. Okay, so for the bow, as I said, I will be using the chocolate brown, moss green, and the black and white buffalo plaid. And even though I do normally use a bowdabra, I do have to say that I have a spool holder from Pro Bow the Hands. She makes the Pro Bow maker, but she also sells a separate spool holder. I would highly recommend getting one of these if you do work with ribbon a lot. It's just kind of a lifesaver with having somewhere to kind of organize them all. And I know that she sells them separately on her website. So if I can squeeze these in here together. Sometimes the bigger rolls, you gotta fight them on there, but they'll get on there. And because the pegs are a little bit higher, a lot of times I can get 2 rolls, so it's actually 6 it'll hold. Just wanted to put that out there instead of having rolls of ribbon flying around all over the place. Gives them all somewhere to go. Okay. So I've already cut the streamers or tails, depends on what you call them. I actually default to calling them tails, but I know a lot of people call them streamers. So I've already pre-cut those. And then with the bowdabra, if you're not familiar with it, it comes with wire, and then you can also buy separate spools of it. It's very thin, but it's soft and it's flexible. You don't have to use it. You could use a pipe cleaner, you could use wire, regular wire in there. It's completely up to you. I just like this because it's soft and it's much easier to work with. So for this bow, I'm going to measure out 20 inches of the wire. And what you do is you take it and then bring your 2 ends together, and it makes like a loop. Then you could just put that straight down in, just kind of even on both sides of what you've got hanging over, and tuck it under. Like I said, if you want to use a pipe cleaner, regular wire, even a zip tie, whatever you're more comfortable working with is completely fine. Or if you're lucky enough to be able to freehand bows, by all means, do that. So to make it match the one I've already made, I went and I cut the brown at 38 inches. And then I just did the little V chevron, dovetail, whatever we want to call it, on that. So the brown is 38 inches. The moss green is 36 inches. And then the buffalo plaid is also 36 inches. I will be putting all of this in the description, so don't worry about trying to remember what I've just said. So with this, come over here, and I just have, excuse me, where I have a kind of like a little holder that just little sticky dots so it stays in place. Well, there's really 2 downfalls of the bowdabra. It is lightweight, so it will slide around. But at the same time, I like the fact that it's lightweight because it's very portable, and I could just take it and move it over. It's not some big thing. Also, there are no actual ways to measure on it directly. I use it on top of my mat, so it's not a big deal to me. But I do understand that it is for other people if you don't have a mat. So like I said, it's a personal choice of what you like for a bow maker. So with that in place, I'm going to put my brown ribbon down first. You just slide it down in there. And I've already got them, you know, where I just folded them in half equally. So they're just easier to put in right now. Then I'm going to come in with the green over that. And then the plaid on top. So that is going to be for the streamers or tails. So that's already in there. That's ready to go. So now I'm going to start with the brown. And let's see, I had done 6 inches on the tails and the loops. You don't have to cut it beforehand. You can always just come in and do them all after. It's totally up to you. So I'm going to measure, I have my center line is on the 20. So I'm going to go out to about 26 for the 6-inch. Lay that down in there. Now I'm doing, the good side is up. I know with this kind of ribbon, it's hard to tell. It's the same on both sides. So if you are using something where it's really noticeable, you do want your good side facing up right now. And let's see, so yeah, we're at 26. And then as with all bows, the biggest part that you have to remember is you're going to twist at this point, because if you do have a good side, that will make it face up at this point. So now I am going to go out to 14 on this side because of the 20, so that's 6 there. Twist again. I'm going to be making another loop. Each one of these will have 2 loops and 2 tails. And if you wanted to make yours bigger or smaller, or, you know, just totally different, whatever you want to do, it's completely up to you. I'm just showing you how I made that one. Okay, so that. And now we're not going to twist, because at this point I'm going to just be cutting off the other tail. So I'm just going to do that. So that one's ready to go. So now we're done with brown. So yep, these were all 6. So now I'm going to go into the green. And the green I did at 5 inches. So same thing, we're just gonna lay this one down into, let's see, well, let me cut it first. And what's nice about this type of bow, it could be, you know, a little off in the measurements. I mean, the whole thing is kind of meant to be, you know, just kind of whimsical and fun, and, you know, just the whole look to it. So, you know, if things aren't exactly perfect, that's fine. It just kind of goes with the whole look. So that's 5 inches. Same thing, twist. Now I'm going to make a 5-inch loop on this side. Okay, twist again, make another loop. Oh, the green is tight. And then, like last time, now I'm just gonna let this lay out and just come in and cut off the end. So there's that. And then for the final one is going to be the buffalo plaid. When you do this type of a bow, you know, it's kind of like the funky bow or the terry bow, or, you know, however you want to call it, where you have the tails and the loops all in the top part like that. I would, if nothing else, just suggest that you use a smaller ribbon for the middle, because if you use like a 2.5 in the middle, right now it's going to be, those loops are just going to be kind of too big. It's going to look a little smushed. So I would recommend using a 1.5 in the middle. You know, you could obviously mix it up as you want throughout the rest of it, but for the middle part, I would do a 1.5 just so that your loops don't get a little too smushy and lost. And then for, let's see, this one, 4 inches. So I just stepped down 1 inch on each one just so that you could see enough of all of them. Some people only step down a 1/2 inch, or you do 1 inch, whatever you like. So let's see, a little more there, I think. Okay, same thing. Don't forget to twist. As I said, it's just important when you have an obviously good side of your ribbon. Okay, that's that. This is actually, I had gotten this one from Craft Outlet. It's actually, it was only like $7. I wrote down $7.25 on the roll, but I think that it's actually cheaper now. It's not bad, but it is actually pretty thin, so it can be a little hard to work with. Okay, so that's that. And then I just did a 3-inch center loop. That's up to you if you want to do one or not. Doesn't really matter. At this point, it's a little bit harder to see with all my ribbons, so that looks good. Okay. So the bowdabra, if you're not familiar with it, has this little stick that you can use to hold your ribbon or just kind of give it a smush down. Okay, so at this point, that's all in there. Use your little smusher stick if you want. It just kind of pushes it all together. I bring up both ends of the wire. You got to slide it up through the top here. And then I just pull the ends through the loop and then pull it down tight. And you take these, just pull it tight and make a knot. So that's what that looks like now in the middle. It's just like I said, it's a very thin wire, so it's nice. It usually kind of just sinks down into a bow where it's not as noticeable. And then I just do the same thing, come around the back just to make sure that it's nice and tight. Now normally, like if this was a ribbon that you, a bow that you wanted to hang on something, like a lot of times I'll just take these 2 ends and tie a knot up at the top so it gives me a loop. But I'm going to be actually wrapping a pipe cleaner around this to attach it. So at this point, I'm just going to cut this off. But if I wanted to make a hanging loop, then I would just use the rest of the wire for that. So now we're just going to come in, kind of fix things a little bit here. And the pipe cleaner, I'm going to wrap around that now. If you wanted to use a zip tie or just regular wire at this point, you can. Once again, all of that is totally up to you, whatever you're comfortable with or like using. So that's what I'm going to use to attach it to the wreath with. Now, as far as fluffing, pretty easy. We don't have a whole lot that we're working with here. So pull a loop one way, tail the other way. And then on the other side, you're going to pull the loop opposite and the tail opposite. So it just kind of has a uniform look to it. But also, this is something you are absolutely free to do whatever you want here too. Whatever you like, however you like the look of it. So then with the green, I'm just going to pull this loop over this tail. So it's like that. So it is just a lot of pulling loops over tails, tails over loops, however you want to say it. And the reason when you step down, when you cut it, is that so everything can still be seen. And then for this one, here in the middle, let's see, what did I do? Okay, I did where I just had my little tails going up and down like that. And then my loops I just did here in the middle. And my little center one here too. You could go any way you want with this at this point. Once again, this is, you know, a little more of a freer bow. So whatever you like, whatever you want to do, play around with it. If you don't like it, shift things around, move them around. It's totally up to you. So like that pretty much looks like the one I had before. So that's just a quick fluff on that. So I'm going to attach it to the frame. And I've got my loop there, so I'm going to aim for that. And I'm actually going to come through the loop that I had made. Now this is a little tight. If you wanted to, you know, add a little bit extra to your pipe cleaner, if you don't really want to mess with it too much, you could just, it's just enough to get the ends together. But you could always add extra if you use, you know, something else. It'll be a little bit easier. So that's all. I just twist it together. And now we have the bow. Now with the streamers or tails, it's totally up to you. You could leave them straight. You know, you could curl them up. I know sometimes people are a little afraid of curling tails. They don't really know how to do that or not sure about that. So I actually just wanted to show you a very easy way to curl them if you are not really comfortable with it. Just move that out of my way. You can use paper towel roll, toilet paper roll, anything round. And then take your ribbon, wrap it around. You can go pretty tight. Slide it off. And then your edge here that you've got on the inside, pull that. Just kind of keep it a little bit there. And that'll give you a curl. You can mess with it, you know, a little bit. It's just, it's a helper, you know, if you're not really comfortable with curling tails. I wasn't for a long time either. So I had tried that when I was working on it a little bit more in the beginning. And so it just kind of helps you along with curling those up. Or like this, you know, you just take it, twist it, kind of give it a little squish. You get your curl like that too. And this, at this point, it depends on, you know, how much of a curl you want, a little bit, a lot. I mean, that's totally up to you. So what I'm going to do is finish curling them, and then I'm just going to get it up on the wall so we can actually see it. So I'm going to cut away for a second, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I finished curling the rest of the streamers, and I got it up on the wall so we can take a look at it. And this is what it looks like, fully completed. I'm going to try to get a little close up here for you so you could see it all. And that's what it looks like. So it's not very deep either, depending on how big and fluffy you make your bow. So it is a pretty skinny wreath. So that's the completed little pumpkin wreath. And just before I go, I didn't want you guys to think that you're just kind of stuck with making a pumpkin out of this. I did actually make another one. Now it is pumpkin theme for fall, but I did want to show you guys that you can do other things with doing the same exact thing. The only difference with this one, it is an 18-inch grapevine, so it's a little bit bigger. And obviously I did do a little more with the bow and the streamers on that one. But it's the same exact thing. I just wrapped the grapevine, I made a big old bow, and I stuck it on the wreath frame. And that was it. So it's something that, you know, you're not really just stuck with making a little pumpkin. You could do some other different things with it if you want to. So I just wanted to show you guys that one really quick as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.